Good afternoon, everyone. Like Carrie said, my name is Mackenzie Johnson. I'm a program manager here at OIDD. I've been at OIDD for about 3.5 years now. Prior to being here, I worked as a ABA therapist for a little bit, did early intervention, and then mostly did case management training and supervision with a contracted provider for several years. So I'm excited to be here with you guys to talk about person-centered thinking training. It's something that I'm super passionate about. And then myself and also 3 other OIDD staff last year went through the person-centered thinking coaching training where we got to become a little more versed on each tool so that we can help provide additional guidance to people using the specific tools that they discuss in the person-centered thinking training. If you haven't done that and you're interested in having yourself or any of your staff attend the training, I know that they prioritize case managers because it's a requirement for them to complete person-centered descriptions. But if you go on business tools, there is a Google form that you can complete to request to be added to the next training, or you can reach out to Bill Simpson directly and he can help guide you on how to get registered for that. Normally, the transition in fiscal years, we have to re-up our contract with Intellectability. So there's sometimes a couple month lag on those trainings, but once they pick back up, they're held almost monthly. So it's a great training if you haven't participated in it to learn more about person-centered thinking. So the things that we're going to be discussing today is kind of our traditional medical model of supporting people with disabilities, and then how we can move that into more of a person-centered model, an institutional life versus a good paid life versus a community life, how we can use some of these tools to give voice to the people that we support. We'll discuss the person-centered concept of what's important to and what's important for someone, how the person-centered thinking ties into information that is required to include in the individual support plan that residential and day program providers have to complete. And then we'll discuss some additional tools on how you can gather some of this information by looking at likes and admires, good day, bad day, rituals and routines, as well as the one-page description. So when we talk about person-centered thinking training, it is just that. It's how we think about the people that we support, and it gives us some additional tools to organize this information that we learn about the people that we support. So historically, in supporting people with disabilities prior to 1981, people that needed long-term supports and services, including people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, had to receive services in an institutional setting. So that would have been at a nursing home or one of the OIDD operated regional centers. So in October of 1981, the Social Security Act was amended to allow states to provide home and community-based waiver services, which allowed people to receive services similar to what they received in an institution in a home and community setting. But it wasn't until 1991 that the South Carolina home and community-based waiver services and supports were approved and implemented in South Carolina. So I just like for people to know this so that you can see in the history of how we've supported people with intellectual and developmental disabilities has been in institutional settings. So we still come across people that have a very institutional mindset. I interact with a lot of other state agencies and hospital systems, and some of them still have a very institutional mindset when it comes to people with disabilities. So it really is a mindset shift. So when people were supported in a more institutional setting, they really were supported using a medical model of health, which primarily focuses on the person's diagnosis and treatment of disease. So people receiving care typically have a very passive role in this model. Really, health and safety is the only thing that is considered when we're supporting people. They don't have a voice in how their care is provided. But when we shift more into a person-centered model, people are empowered to participate as active partners in discussions and decisions about their care. So we're communicating with them, we're discussing what their strengths are, what they're capable of, what opportunities that they might have to reach their chosen goals. And it helps to identify things that are important to someone beyond their health and safety. So this could be anything from education, community inclusion, employment, and different things that they would like to voice on how their care is received. So this just kind of looks like the trajectory of how we can support someone in their life. So historically, people were supported in a very service-driven life. This is looking at more of an institutional setting. Really only what's important for them is addressed, and we're going to talk more about how to determine what's important for someone and what's important to them. But really, we're only looking at what's important for them and their health and safety. There's really no organized effort to address what is important to the person and for them to have a say in their life. And so, again, this is kind of a continuum. So people fall in all areas of this, and someone could maybe start in a service life, and we just kind of want to move them into a good paid life or community life as they're capable and able to do that. You might also have people that are successfully supported in the community for a really long time, and then for whatever reason, they might have some medical concerns come up, and then they might move backwards in this trajectory. So people can move along this at different rates. So when we look at a good paid life, we're looking at what is both important to and what is important for the person. However, the closest people to them are still typically paid or family members. They have few real community connections. And then whenever we look at the community life, what's important to and for them are present. They have an active circle of support, and they are included in the community. So what is person-centered thinking? So person-centered thinking is not to listen what somebody says they want for them for their life and say, yes, you're exactly going to have everything that you ever wanted with no consequences. That's just not how life works. So really what we're doing when we're being person-centered is we're going to guide respectful listening, which leads to action, sorry, words are hard, resulting in people who have positive control over their life, a life that they have desire and find it satisfying. They are recognized and valued for their contributions, and they're supported in a web of relationships, both natural and paid, within their communities. The people that are being supported have a voice and are most often communicating preferences. So this is something that I'd like to tell a lot of people. So behavior is communication, whether somebody is agreeing and doing what you're asking them to do or whether they are not. So if you approach me and get in my space and I don't appreciate that and I don't have words to communicate to back up or gestures and I swat at you, my behavior is communicating to you that I would like for you to go away from me. So just considering that all behavior is communication, and people are constantly communicating preferences. If you talk with, primary caregivers or even people, direct support staff at the day program, they can typically tell you what someone's preferences is. If they have a preferred TV show, if they have a preferred person that they interact with, because even if they don't communicate verbally, normally someone's eyes will light up or they'll go to their preferred person and hug them where they don't do that with anybody else. So people are constantly communicating with us if we just pay attention to their actions and their behavior. So when we're looking at implementing person-centered practices, what we're doing is creating a promise to learn. So we're going to listen to what is being said and what is meant by what is being said. So we're going to continue listening to people and continue asking questions to clarify. It's a promise to act on what we hear. So to always find something that we can do today or tomorrow to keep acting on what we hear, and then also a promise to be honest. So this might be letting people know that what they're asking for will take time. So even whenever we're looking at competitive employment in the community, if somebody tells you that they want to be a doctor, you might need to ask additional questions on why they want to be a doctor, because that person may or may not be capable of doing that. But it might be that, a lot of the people that we support had more medical complications whenever they were younger. So maybe they spent a lot of time in a hospital and that's just where they feel comfortable. Or maybe they know that doctors wear white coats and they just want a job where they can wear a white coat. Or they, most doctors have ID badges. So maybe they just want a job where they have an ID or they just want their own ID. So kind of listening and asking more questions about the reason behind what they're telling us. And then also if we, have someone that has a really specific job that they want, but they don't have any, they need a little bit more assistance around learning soft skills or things like that. We can say, all right, our goal is to work you up to your preferred job, but first we just need to get you some job experience and get you, used to being at work and listening to other people and interacting with your coworkers and things like that. So we're being honest with them about what they're asking for is going to take time, but that we're working towards that. And then also being honest if what they're telling us conflicts with staying healthy or safe. So there are sometimes that people want to do things that we really cannot find a balance between what is important to them and what is important for them, and just having an honest conversation around that. So I've talked a little bit about this. So the person-centered core concept is balancing what is important to someone being supported with what is important for them. It's not telling the person they can have everything that they've ever wanted, but finding compromises and digging deeper into why something is important to them. And then important to and important for influence each other. So typically, someone is not going to do something that is important for them unless there is a component of it that is important to them. And then we also want to follow people's actions. So I can say all day long that being healthy is important to me. But if I never exercise and I eat 12 cheeseburgers a day, my actions are not communicating that being healthy is important to me. So figuring out how we can marry those two things to find a component of what's important to them to make them invested in what's important for them. So most people, including us, are not going to do anything that's important for us willingly unless a piece of that is important to them. So here's a breakdown of looking at what's important to versus important for. So what's important to someone includes things in our lives which make us feel content, satisfied, comforted, and happy. So this includes people that we're around and want to be in relationships with, things we do, places we go, our rituals and routines. We'll talk about this a lot more in a minute. Our rituals and routines are very important to us. Rhythm or pace of life. Typically the pace of life in the South is slower than if you're in New York and things are very hustle and bustle and fast paced. Status and control and things to have. So it includes what matters most to the person and also what the person is saying with their words, but also with their actions. And then important for focuses more on health and safety. So issues of health is prevention of illness. So if the person is in jeopardy of becoming diabetic, that, we're having conversations around that and looking at, eating better and exercise or medication. Treatment or illness, promotion of wellness, so diet and exercise. And then issues of safety. So is their environment safe? Are they physically and emotional safe? Are they free from fear? And then it's also really important for other people to be valued and be a contributing member of their community. I know Becky talks a lot about a job isn't just around people getting paid and making money. It's where they feel connected to their community. It gives them a purpose. It drives them to do something bigger than themselves. So that's also important for people to have that recognition and feel valued and like they're contributing. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second to see if anybody has any questions. If you have questions, you can either unmute yourself or just type it in the chat. Carrie is monitoring the chat for me. All right. Well, we will keep going. So there are parts of the individual support plans that are created for both residential and day providers that you can use a lot of these person-centered tools and skills for. Person-centered tools about what people admire about me. So we'll talk through likes and admires, how we can gather information about what is important to someone and how to best support them, developing meaningful programs, and then recreation, leisure, and community integration. So oftentimes when you ask anyone, not just people with disabilities, what is important to them, they'll say my family or world peace or a house, to have money. So they'll give you these very broad terms. So if you've been through the person-centered thinking training, they give you a bunch of different skills. I'm just going to break down a couple here that I felt like were most prevalent. To what you guys do. So we'll look at likes and admires, good day, bad day, rituals and routines, and then also how to create a one-page description to really get more at the core of what is important to someone. I think Becky was also or Carrie, we're going to be sending out the PowerPoint along with these tools after the training as well. So when we look at likes and admires, this tool is used to gain what other people like and admire about the person being supported. So whenever I was a case manager, I always like to start with this tool anytime we were in a meeting about the person. So that could be a residential plan meeting, a day program meeting, call team meeting, a residential screening. I've used them at IEP meetings. So just anywhere that we're gathering to talk about the person that we support, this is a great tool to start with. It can oftentimes set a different tone for the meeting because we're going to say what we value about this person, what we like about them, and what we admire about them. And because oftentimes we're having these meetings to discuss issues that we're having with the person. So if we can start on a more positive note, it can sometimes change the trajectory of that meeting. It also asked in the individual support plan what people admire about me. So you can use this tool to help gather that information from more than just one person. One of the things that I really appreciated about person-centered thinking training is that it can be used to help change the conversation with families. So we teach families from the time that their loved one is a very young age about all the things that they can't do and all the things that they're never going to do and all the help that they're going to need. So families are somewhat trained from very early on to tell us all the bad things that are happening or the things that they want their loved one to work on. And so time stepping back, and even I've been in home visits with families and I'm like, all right, tell me, something good that's happened since our last visit, or tell me something that you like and admire. And so it has to make them change their brain to something positive versus always just telling you things that have gone poorly since you last spoke with them. And then rituals and routines. So everyone has rituals and routines, how we celebrate our holidays, our morning routine, typically how you end your day before you go to sleep. We typically drive to work the same way. So we're very much embedded in our habits and our rituals and our routines. So rituals guide us through our days and bring consistency, comfort, and control. It allows us to know what to expect and also help inform others of how we may act if you change our ritual or routine. So understanding and supporting rituals is a critical skill in learning to listen to the people that we support. So I think it's super important to know what people's routines are, because if you try and flip their routine over on them, there's typically going to be a huge issue with that, where if we want to nudge people into different rituals and routines and habits, that's going to take a little bit more time. So say you have someone in your residential program that doesn't normally wake up until 10 o'clock in the morning, and everyone else in the house wakes up at 6. And so every morning that person is acting out because they're being woken up early. So we can try and get people to move from 10 to 6, but doing it all at one go is not going to be as successful as finding a compromise in that. It also lets you know, gives you some more insight into what's important to the person. If they create certain rituals and routines, it can be around what products that they use. So say they ran out of toothpaste and you got them a different brand and all of a sudden they're acting out, and it might be that they don't like the flavor of the new brand and may or may not be able to communicate that. So anytime we shift what someone might do, if there is a positive or negative reaction to that, we just want to take note because, you could change someone's routine and they find that they like it much better. I'm always looking to even improve at my job. So if someone gives me a different way to do something, it might take me a while to, create a new habit or a new routine around that, but it will at least lead me toward a more efficient and effective way. So steps for using rituals and routines, you want to start with a specific situation. So like I said, you could look at their morning routine, a nighttime routine, something around holidays, meal times, bath times. We all have specific times of the day where we have a certain routine. So you want to know the time needed to prepare for an upcoming task or job. So say it's someone has to go to work in the morning and we know that it takes them an hour to go through their morning routine. And then if they're running late, that they tend to have a lot of anxiety around that, and then they have a bad day at work. So knowing that it's going to take them an hour to get ready to have a successful day, that just gives us a little bit more insight into their routine. Details surrounding their use of time. So if it takes them an hour to get ready, what are they doing in that hour? Details connected with people that offer assistance, the food we eat, commute time, products we use to get ready or be successful in a given situation. So this skill helps to discover what may be important to the person as well as outlining opportunities for negotiation. It will bring forward easily shareable and organized information that helps supporters make better days for those people that we support. So even, with day program staff members. So if the one DSP is more successful supporting someone than another, maybe we need to look at how that particular DSP that's successful, how they are setting up that person's day and what routines are they doing differently than what maybe the other staff that is having larger issues. It could be as simple as that. Okay, so good day, bad day kind of is a good segue from rituals and routines because we all kind of have a typical day and what that our typical day routine looks like. So we can learn how to best support someone by what's present or absent in their life. You can look at the skill to examine what a typical day looks like and then to establish their baseline and then how we could potentially make it better or how we could make it worse. I think sometimes we can unintentionally, even here at the office, not just supporting people with disabilities, can unintentionally make people's days worse just by the things that we do, that if we're not aware of that, could affect that friendship or being coworkers. It could affect that and how we're able to work together. And then good days, sometimes we just want to make people's day better and see them smile or have a better day. So what are some of those things that we could do? So you just want to make sure that you pick a specific situation or a day of the week. So it could be a work day, it could be a weekend day, it could be, say they're going to the day program and 3 days a week they're doing day activity and 2 days a week they're doing community services. So you'd want to pick a specific day if they're going to be in the program all day or going out into the community. So we're going to ask questions around their typical day. So what time they wake up, what time they go to bed, meal times, what their normal activities are. And then ask questions around what could make a typical day better. Is it getting to see a particular person, having a specific activity, sleeping in? If you go out in the community, I know a lot of programs do like Meals on Wheels and help put together different baskets and things like that? Is that a preferred activity that when they get to do that, that's a better day? Or is it a bad day when their routine has been totally changed? Maybe their normal direct staff at the house called out that day and they have a new direct staff that they're not used to, and so it just completely threw off their day. So what are those things that can make a typical day worse? And so I think you guys do this pretty regularly. This just gives you an organized way to have it written out so that other people can see it. I'm sure if you go into any day program or residential setting where you're supporting someone regularly, most direct support staff can tell you, oh, don't do this because it's going to throw them off. Oh, we do this because it makes their day a little bit better. So this is just putting it in an organized format so that that information can be easily shared with other people. So if that direct support staff leaves or steps into a different role or is no longer with that person, that the next person coming along has this information readily available. All right, and then the last skill that we're going to talk through is the one-page description. So the one-page description is used to create a positive introduction of the person, and they're used for a specific purpose. So if we're creating a one-page description to try and find someone a job, that one-page description is going to look very different from like just one hanging up in their room that gives you some general positive information about the person. So you want to make sure that you're designing it for a specific purpose. It's concise, organized, and use common language for easy understanding. So here are some examples. When I did the residential training last week, I really encouraged them to create one for every person that's supported residentially and have it hanging up in their room. It's really great to have some just basic information about the person that staff can go to. It also creates more ownership for that person, that they can come in if they have a visitor and say, oh, come look at my my page, and we'll kind of talk through the components of that. So one of the programs that I oversee at central office are the complex care coordinators. So they are looking for residential placement for a good bit of folks. So I have them create a one-page description for everyone that they're seeking residential placement for and send that along with their referrals. You can have it in their file for new staff. You can create one that has updates to give to a doctor at medical appointments. You can use one kind of as not as a substitute for a resume, but in addition to a resume. If you're helping someone find a job, you could have it at the day program. You could have it in their file at the day program. So it's just an easily accessible one-page snapshot of the person. So components that you can include, again, this is going to vary depending on the reason why you're creating the one-page description, but you can include some general information about the person, things that they like and admire, things that other people like and admire about them, just some general fun facts. We have a lot of really cool people out there that we support that have a lot of varying interests that are fun just to put in a little fun fact about them. What's important to them, what's important for them, different strengths and challenges, and how to best support me. So when we're looking at creating a one-page description, it's not to overshadow challenges that people might have, but to say like, while this person might have these challenges, here's ways that they can be supported. And you'll see that in some of the examples that we have. So here is one example that was created for someone that we were looking for residential placement for. So this person was in the hospital with nowhere to discharge. And so we were looking for that. For him, his dad had passed away, and after his dad passed, his mom was really struggling to support him. So on here we have his diagnosis, what his current situation is, any allergies, medications, the contact information, for the best contact. So again, it's not looking at just only positive things, but it has on here what he struggles with. So transition times, unstructured settings, but then also what he's good at. So telling you what I need, having patience, making you laugh. And then what's important to and important for me. So important to him was to feel included and involved, having a safe environment, being given attention. But then also what was important for him was explanations of why someone is, why something is unsafe, and then providing activities and structure. So then it just has a little about me. If he had some special dietary needs, so that is included. But it's just a little snapshot about useful information for the people that we support. This one is an example of one that you might hang up in someone's room if they're being served residentially. So it has on here, likes and admires. So she's kind, a good listener, always willing to help, has great manners, fun facts. So I like jigsaw puzzles. So if there's a new staff coming in, that could be important to know what her hobbies and interests are. So she also enjoys making crocheted bracelets. When she was living at home, she had 3 dogs that she enjoyed caring for, what type of music she likes. Important for her is spending time with her sister, maintaining her nighttime routines, and then it's important for her to feel safe and supported. So also list strengths and challenges. So her challenges were it was difficult for her to express how she was feeling. She has a hard time understanding nonverbal communication and social cues, and then how best to support me. So routines were super important to her. She's sensitive to light and sound, so that would be helpful for someone to know if she's going outside and it's super bright, maybe offer her a pair of sunglasses. If you're going somewhere that is going to be super loud and noisy, headphones might be beneficial in that situation. And then here's one that you might include to help someone finding a job. So his goal was to find a job in a restaurant where he can learn to make food and keep the restaurant clean. So some things he's good at, he can use a microwave, he can sweep the floor. He does have challenges with cooking on the stovetop or in the oven and squeezing a mop out. He's very friendly and helpful. What is important to him, earning his own money so that he can live in his own apartment and having a set routine so that he knows what to expect throughout the day. And then about me, he's very outgoing. He's eager to find a job to learn some new skills. He likes people and animals, and then how to best support me. So this could be really beneficial information for either the employment specialist or the person who is employing the job seeker, but he does best with visual direction and hands-on practice. He would need help programming his work schedule into his phone so that he's on time. He'll be taking the bus to work, so he needs to make sure that his work schedule is around bus availability. And then he sometimes needs multi-step directions repeated or broken down so that he understands. So it's just a really good way to create some organized, helpful information about the person. So just some common errors is there's no clear purpose. So remember, you're going to design these based upon the reason you're presenting the information. Information might be shared in the wrong place and it's not in common language. We use a lot of acronyms and systems speech in the work that we do. So just making sure anybody could walk in and understand what is being said about the person. All right, so just using person-centered thinking skills can help create more meaningful conversations with the people we support and their support system. So whether that be family, direct support staff, even to the house manager, so whoever their support system might be, it can help guide what is most important for the person and how to best support them, and then allows the person supported to have more positive control over their lives. So doing this work, I know that Becky has even said this, we all thought that we were person-centered before we went through training, and then we were kind of like, we we might have a little more work to do. And then also, one of the reasons why I got into this work is because I wanted to be, or I thought I wanted to be a voice for those that didn't have one. And what I've learned through doing this work is that people have a voice and we just often don't listen to them. So how can we take a step back and use some of these tools to help support people in a more meaningful way? So what questions do you guys have? You can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can ask it in the chat. All right, well, we'll stick around for a few more minutes if anybody has anything, and I will give you back 15 minutes of your life because I know you guys are doing very important things out there. So just thank you. I thank you guys for all the work that you do, and you know, what you do is super meaningful for the people that we support. So thank you.